Alright, next maintenance job I'm going to be doing on the MG is the gearbox. I'm going to first check the oil level, and then I know it's been a while since it's been replaced, so I'm going to replace, drain and refill the gearbox oil in my manual transmission. So just some basic tools that you need here are what is this, 11/16 to get the drain plug out. Mine, I'm going to also replace at the same time. Where'd it go? The gaskets that go on the angle drive. So here I got, get them out of the package. There's a gasket that goes underneath the whole unit for the angle drive for the speedometer, and then there's an internal rubber gasket that I'll show you how to replace at the same time. This is, I don't know if I'm going to even use this thing. This thing is a flimsy little piece of paper that I don't even know if it does anything. I'll take a look at the one that comes off the car, and then I will evaluate whether I'm going to use this or I'm going to just make my own gasket with some Hylamar. So that's that. I'll show you a little bit underneath the car of where all this stuff fits and goes. Okay, underneath the vehicle here is the drain plug, obviously on the gearbox, and then right here is the angle drive just aft of the drain plug, the angle drive unit that comes out and attaches to the cable here for the speedometer. So I'm going to remove this. This is on my car it's 11mm because I think it's been changed before, but I think it probably comes with a 7/16 or something like that bolts. So let's get to it. Okay, inside the vehicle I have taken and pulled back the carpeting from behind the speaker box area, and I've put down a old rag. Obviously you don't want to get oil everywhere, so done that. And then inside here there's a grommet, so remove that rubber grommet. It's simple, just pops right out. And then clean around the area. You don't want stuff falling in to the gearbox. So kind of clean around the area a little bit, remove some of the dust or whatever is back there. And then if you reach your finger down there, you can feel there's a metal. I'll be able to get a picture of it, but there is a metal bar, kind of, I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out, but there's a metal bar that's attached to a dipstick in there. Okay, I've pulled out the endoscope to give you guys a look at what I'm looking at. And if you go in to here, I've pulled out this 550 cord, which I've wrapped around my handle. But you can see down in there there's a metal handle attached to the top of the dipstick. And so this 550 cord here helps pull it out. Now there's a rubber O-ring that'll be around that dipstick, so it will be in there. It's not too difficult to pull out, but you can. It does take a tug, and then it'll pop out. So go ahead and go in there, and if you can see here what I'm looking at, there's the 550 cord that I've kind of pulled out and laid down on the side, and so I'll just grab onto that and then give it a tug out, and that comes right out. Okay, here is the dipstick, and you can see the metal bar and the 550 cord that is wrapped around it, and then there's some there's a gasket down here that seals, and then there's markings that you might not be able to make out that have a low mark and a high mark for the low oil level. So that's basically checking the oil. Obviously, if it was low, you'd want to add a little bit, and then if you're just if you're not replacing all of the oil. And it says here in the manual to must be maintained at the high mark on the dipstick. So the shop manual tells you to maintain it at the high mark. It's not like a range where if it's in the middle it's good. It tells you if it's anything below the high mark, just to fill it up to the high mark. Okay, now just have to remove this bolt, or the drain plug. Obviously, you have your catch can ready. So, put that over in place. And we'll drain all the oil out. Okay, removing the speedometer cable is a pretty easy process. You have to loosen it up. Take the cable off of the angle drive. So, take that off. Set it aside. Now I have to remove the angle drive here unit. So I'm going to be reusing the angle drive. So I'll get myself my 11mm here for my nuts, and I'll pull this off as one unit. And I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, you might have to twist the angle drive so that the outlet for the speedometer cable is pointed up in order to get your ratchet in there. Okay, so don't back that top nut or bolt out too far without getting your socket off, because there's this nut in the way and it won't let it come off. So just backing it off enough to be able to get your finger in there and undo it. Actually, I need to do it a little bit more. And then once you get your finger in there, you can spin it off with your finger. This bottom one is pretty easy. You can take that one off. Okay, once you get the nut or the bolt off, well, I still have a few threads left. Then the angle drive unit will come out. And it comes out as a piece here. I'll show you. Here's the unit. And you can take off the angle drive from the innards if you just want to replace or remove the angle drive and replace the angle drive. But I just took it out as one unit since I'm replacing the gaskets, and I'll dismantle it on the bench up top. Alright, so don't forget about the gasket. There is that small little paper gasket on there. So just carefully remove that. If there's any that sticks on, you can always get a razor blade or something and clean it off afterward. I'm not going to try not to mar the surface at all. You don't want to put any grooves in it, but I'm just really gently going around and prying this paper gasket off. And it will come off. It's slowly but surely. I'm trying not to rip it so that I can take it off all in one piece. There we go. Getting there. Okay, I could probably pull it off with my hand. Nice and slow. There we go. There we go, and I'll come back and I'll clean up the surface here where it meets. Make sure it's nice and clean. Alright, so here's the angle drive off the car, and you just have to separate the two pieces. Actually, this is the angle drive right here. This is the gear shaft that goes into the this part of it, and I'll take it apart and I'll show you which is which. Okay, so here's the angle drive, and it fits into, there's a square tubing or bolt there. It fits in there, and this square pin here fits in there. And so obviously when the gear in the gearbox that meets up with this is just a plastic some type of plastic gearing, and it spins the square tubing there, and that mates up here, spins this, and there's some type of reduction or gearing to make it spin at the proper rate inside there, and then this spins, and that attaches to the cable that goes up to the speedometer. So what I'll do is I'll just clean these off a little bit, and you can take this apart. Here there's a spline that goes in there, and there's the square end right there. So that's just 1-to-1. There's no internal gearing that makes it reduced or a different speed. It's just a 1-to-1 straight shaft right through. So this looks like it's in pretty good shape. I don't need to replace any of this. I am going to, inside there is that rubber gasket that comes out. Here's the new one, and that fits inside there. So what I've had a little bit of oil leak, like a couple drips every now and then, and it seems to be coming out of this unit. So either the gasket that mates the surface of the gearbox, or this internal gasket is somehow a little bit faulty maybe, and so I'm going to replace both of them. Alright, the old gasket that's inside here is pretty much a pain in the butt to get out. So what I've done is, if you have a pick with a hook on it, then obviously that would be probably easiest. But I didn't have one of those, so I took a gigantic, let me see if I can get it out and show you. Actually, I'll just remove the gasket first. What I've done is I've taken a cotter pin, a big one, the biggest one I have, bent the end of it, and then I fit it in there. I tried pulling from the other end, but that wasn't working. So I fit it through the unit, and now I'm banging on it from the top, and then slowly moving it around to the other sides, and that is getting that gasket to come out. You can see it's nearly out right now. Almost, but I bent it too much. See, here's my top, and this is meant to be bent straight. So what I'm going to do now is try to pull it from the other end, since it's so close. Oh man, it's in there. Well, it's not working from that way, so I'm gonna go back through the other end like I had been. So I got a bit. This is a 19mm, but you can probably use different ones. Fit it on there. Yeah, that does not want to come out. Whew. It bent my bit again. Alright, I'm gonna get a tiny little screwdriver. Alright, so I got a little screwdriver that'll fit on there and catch the edge now. Trying not to mar the sides. There we go. And I got that out. Wow, this one is metal. So at one point, the outer ring of these was made out of metal. This new one is a rubber outer ring, but there is metal in there. So you can see the old one, if I put it to a magnet, there's metal. But the new one also, there is metal in there. There's also inside this this spring, little tiny circular spring, which I can't see in the new one, but I'm sure as manufacturing processes differed, or and they figured out a better way to do it or something. Maybe the metal ones weren't sealing right, so they found a way to do it differently. I don't know. All I know is this part is the part that's supposed to go in there, and you can see if I test fit it, it'll fit. Now the one that came out of the unit came out with the flat surface here of the metal facing down, so the new one has kind of a grooved top and then a flat-ish bottom, so it'll go in like that. So I'll press that in here in a second. Once I clean this out, I'm gonna get some cleaner or whatever and make sure that's all cleaned out. Alright, now getting the new gasket back in to the unit. Just use some rubber safe grease. Shouldn't need a lot. Just coat that. Make sure you put it in the right way. And then kind of, you have to force it in there. Now, in order to get it in, I'm going to use just a bit that fits perfectly inside of the housing, and it'll tap down. You want it to grab the edges of the rubber gasket. Try to get it to go in as straight as possible. Just keep on checking it to make sure it's going in there straight. If it's not, then just kind of move it around and tap on the one side versus the other. we go. Now once it starts going straight, then it should go pretty easily. There we go. And then just, you'll feel it when it bottoms out. There, now it's in there. Alright, so that'll get connected back onto the angle drive, and I'll clean that up. Alright, now cleaning up the angle drive, just basically get all the grit and grime off of it. Make sure that the mating surfaces in here are clean, because those are gonna mate up with this surface. Make sure it's flat. And also this surface here for the speedometer cable. There is this fitting right here on the side of the unit, which has a little screw in it. I'm guessing that this is to lubricate. If you want to put some grease down in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Fit some maybe some oil down in there. Drop a couple drops of oil down in there just to lubricate it. It does seem like if I spin this, it spins freely, so probably doesn't need it, but I'll throw a couple drops in there. Okay, now I just have to put the unit back together. So this bit screws on, and you can put the angle drive on when it's on the vehicle, but I just want to make sure that I get a nice seal here. So I'm going to put this on by hand here. I'm going to hold it down here and hand tighten this. Get a nice firm seal. I don't want to over tighten it and ruin that gasket in there, but nice firm seal. That looks good. And then obviously I'll need to adjust it when it's on the vehicle, because it's got to point the right direction. Okay, and then this unit goes in. Make sure that, and you'll be able to see, you won't be able to see it here, but as you twist this gear here, you can look inside here and make sure that the angle drive unit is turning, and it is. So just want to make sure when you're putting it back together, it's all going to connect right. Now this gasket. So this gasket goes on here, and it covers this up like that. But it's just a piece of paper. I can't imagine it does much. I'm going to use some Hylamar on this just to make sure I get a good seal. Okay, so took a small bead of Hylamar around the edge. Now I'm going to put the gasket on with a little tamp down just to make sure it makes a nice surface. I'm going to put another fine bead on the other side. That way it'll fill in all of the cracks and crevices. Okay, now you can see in there. I don't think you'll be able to. Yeah, you really can't see in there, but there's a gear in there where the you can just barely make it out. The gear on the top there where this meets. So just check in there, make sure there's no teeth missing or anything. And I've cleaned up the mating surfaces. I'm going to go ahead and attach the angle drive on there to the cleaned up surface. There we go. Make sure the gasket makes good contact. And kind of give it a wiggle so that the Hyalomar sets up. Alright, now you may have to point the angle drive unit up a little bit again to get the ratchet bit in, but then just tighten it down evenly from both sides. Alright, now I'll let that sit for a while and I'll reattach the drain valve plug and fill it with oil, and then I'll come back and retighten these two bolts and attach the angle drive to the speedometer cable. Okay, so I'll give you a view inside the engine and see what we can see in here. Okay, get a pretty good look at the gears. Looking towards the front. Let's see here. Towards the front of the car. Looking good. Don't want to see any marred gears or anything. Obviously I'm not going to get a full look at all of the gearing. But looking pretty good. This is looking to the left side. And then aft. Alright, now the only thing left to do is reconnect and tighten back up. Oh, wrong way. This bottom nut. There we go. Just want to obviously seal it so that it doesn't leak. And that's it. Now we go back up top and we fill the gearbox with oil. Okay, now to fill the oil back up, what specification is standard 20W50 engine oil for the gearbox. As you've seen, the filler port is in a precarious location, so what you need to do is get one of these fillers with a flexible tube, or there's some that are made with metal or whatever, but it just makes filling the whole thing a lot easier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer my new Gulf 20W50 over to a regular size 1 quart 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 1 jug just to make it more manageable inside the car. And it takes, look here, 7.2 US pints, 3.4 liters, or 6 UK pints. So this is a 5 liter jug, so I have plenty of oil, and I'll have some left over. Okay, since there's no good way to figure out when you're full other than to measure precisely when you're adding, so I'm just going to use the markings here on this canister, or this plastic jug, 800 milliliters, and I'll just keep track of how many times I dump this thing into the gearbox. Now, it is not an insignificant process to get the tube down into the hole, so make sure that your filler tube actually goes into the hole. If it doesn't go into the hole, then you're going to be leaking 20W40 all over the underside of your car. Well, you're going to get tired of holding the darn thing, so what I've done is I've zip tied this to the steering column and have it flowing properly all the way downhill into the inlet port. Alright, and here's the second quart going in. Alright, so I got the last of the oil going in, and it's a slow process. This tubing really does cut down on the flow rate, and it takes a while. So I would not recommend doing this job in the dead of winter outside with really cold motor oil, because it's going to take a while, and it's about 75 degrees outside today here in Germany. Okay, so back underneath for one last time, you can see the tube coming through, draining the remainder, just letting it drip as much as possible. And then come back down here, retighten the two bolts, make sure that they're snug, make sure that this is snug, there's no leaks. Obviously you don't want any leaks anywhere, so check that. And then reconnect the speedometer cable here. So you have to kind of angle it this way so that it can fit. And it should connect pretty easily. Alright, so now we're checking out the level here. And it's a little bit above the high. So, but I still have to drive. It tells you to drive the car, and then recheck the level. So I'm gonna take it for a short spin, recheck the level, top it up if need be, and we'll be done.